The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Hey, here's a funny thing to start off with today, just to give you a little behind the scenes of sometimes how online media works. We've gotten a ton of coverage of our sort of commentaries on whether Donald Trump is a sort of functional illiterate. He can read in a literal sense, but his reading level is quite low. Okay, we've gotten probably at this point close to 8 or 9 million views across all of the platforms and videos that we've done on this. There was an article a couple days ago which was pointed out to me by our Reddit discussion forum from Huffington Post called "Is Our Malignant Narcissist in Chief Also Illiterate?" And people pointed it out to me saying, hey, David, Huffington Post picked up your story about whether Trump can read. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Let me take a look at it. So I pull up the story and I start reading it and I see, okay, they're talking about whether Trump reads, but I'm not seeing it actually mention our stories, even though a lot of the language in there clearly is from our stories. And it mentions a Samantha Bee story from several months ago, which I didn't see until after our coverage, but she addressed the what's Trump's reading level issue some months ago. And then it goes on and on to actually cite a lot of the same articles that we cite in our coverage, but it doesn't actually mention us, except you get to the very, very bottom of this article. And let me actually pull it up. I'm looking at it right now. And there's a related video update, which is our story, right? It doesn't say David Pakman Show or anything. It's our story, except it's a YouTube clip that was re-uploaded by a different channel. Basically just a complete copy. Someone said, hey, I like this David Pakman video. I don't care that it's his video. I'm going to take it down and just put it on my channel and run ads on it and make money on it. So when it was pointed out to me, we immediately, as we do, we never do any copyright strikes on other channels when they're using a portion of our clip to make a commentary in a compilation. The same thing we do, right? But I wouldn't think of taking like a Kyle Kalinske clip and just uploading the entire thing to our YouTube channel.
Right. You can find segments of the clips and then elaborate them, and that's completely fair under, fair use law.
Right. So we immediately filed a copyright claim. The video was taken down, and now I'm actually looking, and they've instead embedded what looks like our actual video.
Good.
So yes, that is good.
Was that the only source they had for the entire article? I mean, maybe all the different supporting evidences, they can go back to the original source, the same ones that we used?
They had a lot of those.
Okay, but at the very bottom, the only reference they had was our video.
And it doesn't even say anything about the David Pakman Show. It just says related video.
That's pretty bad. And you've written articles for the Huffington Post. I
Yes,
mean,
I have.
You're in some extent part of that community. You'd think they would give you some credit there.
Yeah, it was disappointing. And it's just funny because at the very bottom, they make an effort to kind of point to something we did without mentioning us, but then it's a copied video that infringes on our intellectual property.
Yeah, you must have gone through that whole article and been like, oh, all right, this is starting to sound familiar. It's like, they must give me some credit at some point. And then you see, oh, yeah, okay, they did give me some credit. Yeah. And then you click on it, and it doesn't even go to the channel.
Instead of going to our channel, it's like YouTuber 6075. That's just a channel that just re-uploads other people's videos. Absolutely insane. But we did manage to get our actual video in the article by filing the copyright takedown notice for someone who had re-uploaded our entire work without giving any credit.
Well, I mean, the good thing is that our original segments that we do, like the Trump reading video, the electoral revolt video, a few months ago when we do like these follow-ups too, those get a lot of attention and other media outlets start to catch on too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, a lot of those have completely gone viral. One of the Trump reading clips, nearly 8 million views on YouTube, on Facebook rather. Yeah. And, nearly 1 million additional views from all the other clips across all the platforms. So yeah, it's been doing very well. Here's something I want to talk about that might be interesting to our audience. Our production process has become significantly more complicated and convoluted in the Trump era. And before the election of Trump, and I would say before the candidacy of Trump, our daily production process was way simpler and calmer, I would say, than it is now, where the day before the show, 6 of the 8 stories we do are pretty well defined. When I wake up the next morning, the day of the show, and look at the latest stories, there's often updates to some of those 6 stories, but it's not like there's such chaos happening every single day overnight that the show is totally restructured the next morning because of how insane the news is. That's basically the status quo at this point. And I'll usually work on 3 to 4 of the stories the day before. And then later at night, segment producer Noah Ferguson will jump in, and I'll email him in the afternoon and say, hey, here's another 2 to 4 stories I'm looking at for tomorrow. And he'll do some of the background research on it. And then in an ideal world, sort of the next morning, I review his research. I add on a little bit more of my research. And then we've sort of got our 8 stories. Basically every day in the morning, some form of all hell breaking loose has taken place during the overnight hours. Half or more of the stories we plan to do get canceled or pushed off to the next day because some insane thing has happened at 4 a.m. or something's happening in Moscow or whatever the case may be. And the daily production demands of the show have increased significantly because of the Trump era. Our production process has been single-handedly upended because of the fact that Donald Trump is president of the United States and all of the constant scandals that brings with it.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. A few years ago, maybe if there was some big attack or something at the very early hours of the day, that can happen every now and then.
Yep.
Of course, being in the news industry, you have to be able to adjust right away and drop those old stories and cover the new ones. But certainly Obama was not up at 4 o'clock in the morning tweeting something, making some big news. Or even just this week, I mean, the Michael Flynn resignation or firing, whatever it was.
11:30 p.m.
11:30 at night. I mean, a lot of people are in bed by then. It's very bizarre.
Early on the West Coast, I guess, but still on the East Coast, a lot of people woke up to that news. What else did I want to say about this? I remember, it's so funny even to think that this was a reality. I remember a couple years ago where there would be some days where I would go to bed with only 1 or 2 stories for the next day's show. And I would wake up and sometimes there just wouldn't be that much news where I would say, oh, this is interesting. I have an opportunity to bring in something from one of the areas we talk about less, like technology or entertainment or sports with some kind of political angle or whatever. And I would actually get some time to say, hey, I've got 2 discretionary segments today, and I can just pick something that is not like a breaking story, but that I kind of feel like talking about. We have 20 to 30 stories that we could cover every single day now. We have time for 7 or 8 of them, depending on the duration of the interview. The era of wondering, well, where am I going to get all of the stories for today? That hasn't existed for a long time now.
And we have these playlists on the channel, the YouTube channel, for things regarding science and technology or health and medicine.
When's the last time we added a video to those?
It's kind of a stretch when I have to add those.
And the good thing is we still get to talk about them on the bonus show often, and people send them in, and please keep doing that. But it's just interesting. I'm going to take a second here. I wanted to discuss the early, oh great, I've got Google 2-step verification turned on, so I'm going to have to enter a code here to get into what I want to get into. We've been doing this survey at davidpakman.com/survey, and apologies for that noise. I just dropped my keyboard. I wanted to tell you about some of the interesting things that have popped up so far from the survey, and there is a lot of it. About 500 people have taken the survey so far. What did I want to talk about? Okay, so yesterday I mentioned that one of the real trends from the survey is people want longer interviews, and the way we're going to be able to accommodate that without bugging the people who don't care about interviews is to do 2-part interviews and spread them over 2 days. So it won't take up a bigger percentage of each show, but the interviews in total will be longer interviews. Immediate change that I think is a really great change for the show overall. Individually, some people won't like it based on survey results. Here's a couple other interesting things, trends so far. One question says, I would like more of the following topics on the show. Overwhelmingly, U.S. and world politics as well as technology. People want more of that on the program. And conversely, I want less of the following topics on the show. Nearly 2/3 of respondents want fewer discussions of sports, which is interesting because there's almost no discussions of sports on the show. And yet, it's the most common area that people actively want less of on the program.
Yeah, I mean, it's really surprising. I mean, we covered the Patriots once that I can remember, not talking about after they won the Super Bowl, and we talked about it on the bonus show. On the main show, we talked about whether Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were Trump supporters or not, but that wasn't a sports story. That wasn't, the Patriots defeated the Falcons or whatever it was. That was, the political opinions of these people in charge of that team.
We did do some Deflategate stories when that was going on. Okay. That was before you were with the show, but it's been a while. So number one that people want less of on the show is sports, followed by basically pretty close the food, diet, lifestyle stories, and entertainment stories. So it's pretty clear. We have an audience that wants politics and technology.
That's our thing. That's our bread and butter.
I guess that's the bread and butter. It's been confirmed. What else is interesting from this? The most popular recurring segments on the show. So these are Amazon items, Instagram pictures, my recommendations, Patriot Mail, popular Reddit threads, live phone calls. The most popular two are live phone calls at 28.4%, and almost equally popular at 28.2%, Patriot Mail.
Yeah, everyone loves Patriot Mail.
People love Patriot Mail.
Love
a lot of suggestions that we do Patriot Mail more than once a week. I don't think we want to do that. It's good that people want more.
Yeah, it would be a little much, though, I think.
I think it would get to be a little much. Followed by the film, book, and documentary recommendations. People seem to like that. As far as membership, if you're not a member, what's keeping you from signing up? The most common answers for why people aren't becoming members are that they don't have enough time to use the perks, which is interesting because it's really the bonus show and being able to see the entire show as one video, which I guess if you watch 2 or 3 5-minute clips, maybe you're like, I don't have time to watch an hour show every day, or not knowing what the benefits are. So that's interesting. It helps me tailor my membership pitches on the regular show to explain what the perks are.
You would expect that money would be one of the things that stop people from signing up for membership, but
price
I mean, it's
too high.
affordable and
Price is too high. 15% of respondents said, which is only the fourth option there. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. And then here's something that I find very interesting. When I hear from co-host and producer voices, the most interesting thing is when they, overwhelmingly 75% of respondents, want Pat or other voices on the show not to agree with me, but also not to just disagree with me, which from emails, sometimes we get the impression that people want Pat to be disagreeing with me. 75% of respondents to the survey want alternative voices on the show presenting different or original ideas, not necessarily that are in agreement or disagreement with me. That's very useful feedback to us.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do. But I mean, I think you can present a different idea and also agree or disagree at the same time.
I agree with you. So if you haven't yet taken the survey, davidpakman.com/survey, we'll have full results probably next week. We'll let it run about another week or so.
We're gonna have to show the pie charts on the show.
Oh, it's gonna be pie charts galore.
Oh yeah,
just you wait. It's gonna be a data fan's wet dream, I would venture to say. Okay, that's it for today.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.